All right, y'all, we got some new Epstein pictures just dropped by the Oversight Dems, and boy, oh boy, is this wild. So we got a lot of stuff to dive into. Let's start with this. Here is a Trumpkin, Make Halloween Great Again. And you see, a pumpkin that's carved up like Trump with the wig on top of it. Okay, this is not anything crazy here. Then we get this one. Oh boy, this one. This almost looks AI generated to me, but, you have Jeffrey Epstein in a fucking bubble bath. Who took this picture? Who was on the other side of that curtain? What was going on? But very bizarre to see the world's most notorious fredophile in a bathtub with bubbles, hiding clearly somebody else who's behind there. What age was that person? Oh my God. I don't even want to think about this shit. This one, man, this is like a dagger to the heart for a young lefty, because Noam Chomsky was the GOAT. Noam Chomsky opened a lot of people's eyes, including myself. And, he wrote just incredible books. Manufacturing Consent, Hegemony or Survival. He is the only man, to a young leftist, he was like the only man who actually seemed to give a shit about international law. And, try to make the U.S. abide by international law. So he was quite a hero of mine, and many other people in this space too, by the way. I know Nathan J. Robinson feels the same. And then what you learn is Chomsky and Epstein were actually pretty close. They were pretty close. And that opens the door to a bunch of conspiracy theories about, why would the world's most notorious human trafficking fredophile CEO of Elite Sex Crimes Incorporated, why would that guy, who allegedly worked for Mossad, but also, by the way, there's some evidence he worked for Russia as well, but why would that guy befriend one of the West's most prominent critics of Israel? A Mossad agent befriending who's got all this dirt on all these powerful, famous people. Why would he befriend a very elderly Noam Chomsky, who's like the West's most prominent critic of Israel? I mean, it's either to knowing that this would tarnish his legacy and therefore tarnish the legacy of one of the most prominent Israel critics, or the same reason why everybody else knew Epstein is because there was fucking dirt on those other people. Say if you befriend Epstein, you immediately become massively suspect, rightly so, because of what the fucking guy did for a living, right? And we know that there's immense blackmail on everybody, including the president. There's immense blackmail on the president. We know there's tapes. We know that. All right, so here's Noam Chomsky with Sloppy Steve Bannon, and Sloppy Steve was even closer with Epstein, and he hid that fact. He's been hiding that fact, but this picture is crazy. By the way, 2 months after this picture was taken, Noam Chomsky delivered a speech about the horrifying rise of ultranationalism and the far right, and his example of somebody who is a terrifying character was Steve Bannon. Make that make sense. All right. Then we get this massage therapy system. Don't want to know. Don't want to think about it. Seems sketchy as a motherfucker, but we're just getting started. Now let's go to this one. We got some more pictures here that were released. Of course, you have this one. This is Trump and Epstein at some party. I believe this one was released previously. But how about this one? So here's Sloppy Steve meeting with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, by the way, Steve Bannon claimed he had all these hours of tapes of interviews with Jeffrey Epstein. He didn't. That was his excuse as to why he was around him so much. Oh no, I was doing a hard-hitting interview and documentary that I'm going to release eventually. He never released it. The interviews don't exist. What Steve Bannon was doing is he was hired by Epstein to help try to rehabilitate his image. That's what was actually going on. And they became very, very close. Okay, so you look at this picture, you go, okay, well, this is weird, but Steve Bannon, Jeffrey Epstein hanging out. Ready for this, though? There's a picture in the desk, directly in between them. When you zoom into that picture, that's what it looks like. That is, ladies and gentlemen, a passed out, what looks like a little girl. A passed out little girl who looks like they were fucking drugged. What the fuck? What do you even say about this? It's not like there's not even the plausible deniability of, no, it might be something else. No, that's a passed out girl. That's a passed out little girl. Jesus Christ. All right, more. Ready? On the other side of the picture with Sloppy Steve and Jeffrey Epstein, here's a picture of Jeffrey Epstein with what looks like a little girl with her head on his shoulder. What the fuck are we talking about? I am so disturbed by this. And see, that's the thing. Everybody around Epstein knew. Everybody around Epstein knew. So what we're looking at is a real eyes wide shut type scenario. But like all of these rich and powerful people, all of these elites are, doing horrible things to children. I can't even wrap my mind around how disgusting that is. All right, let's keep going. This one says, a third photograph is seen in a plate close to the pedophile's left hand. It is not possible to see what the photograph shows, but the black box placed over it indicates that it contains at least one person whose identity is being protected. So this could be another child in a picture on his desk. Okay. Here's the classic picture of Trump with Epstein at a party. Belgian model Ingrid Seinehave. Okay. Here's one with Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. This one looks like it's probably from when Clinton was in office, right? It looks like it's from the 90s, I would say, based on how old all of them look here. Here we have Bill Gates and the disgraced former Prince Andrew, who has now been effectively kicked out of the royal family. Remember, Bill Gates' wife divorced him because he was so close to Jeffrey Epstein. And Bill Gates' wife knew what the fuck was up with Jeffrey Epstein. This is after his conviction. After his conviction. Oh, there's this one. The president seen posing with 6 women whose identities have been redacted. And so I don't know where this was from. I don't know when this was taken. But obviously this is disturbing, especially if it was at some sort of an Epstein party, for example. I believe this picture had been released previously by the New York Post years ago. But nonetheless, this was in the batch of documents released by the oversight Dems. And this was clearly in Epstein's records. Epstein had a picture like this in his records, which, by the way, it opens up the door to all the other stuff that we know exists. Michael Wolff, for example, told the story that Jeffrey Epstein showed him a picture of Donald Trump with 2 girls of a, quote, uncertain age, where they were bending over, pointing at him and laughing, and he had a stain on his pants. Gee, I wonder what that stain was and what it was from. I wonder. So again, this is one that Michael Wolff has seen with his own 2 eyes. Right? We also know, as we pointed out, in 2011, Trump was at Epstein's house with an Epstein victim for hours. That came out in the emails, the Epstein emails, and that was sent in 2011 before Trump even ran for president. So it wasn't like some fake thing, some attempt to do a gotcha. They were real. They didn't think anybody else was ever going to read this. And they're talking about, oh yeah, Trump's at the house with this Epstein victim. Gee, I wonder what they were doing. And remember, Epstein's house was bugged. His houses were bugged like a motherfucker. And so there's pictures of the president. There's videos of the president doing Lord knows what. It also reminds me of Trump and Epstein. Trump handing Epstein a check for thousands of dollars for a depreciated woman. I mean, this is who these people are. This is who they are. Trump condom, $4.50. What the fuck? I'm huge. What the fuck is going on here? What is this? How about this one? We have the very famous Richard Branson, the billionaire Richard Branson. It looks to me, we don't know for sure, but it looks to me like this is on some sort of island, say Epstein Island. And Richard Branson is a billionaire. By the way, Richard Branson, close with Barack Obama. Clearly also he was close with Jeffrey Epstein. When we say it's a big club and you ain't in it, man, oh man, do we mean that. All right, more. This one right here, this is a weird, bizarre glove. And it looks like, I mean, it's like ribbed dildo finger gloves here. And so this is clearly for some sort of sex play, right? I don't know if it's supposed to go in your ass or your pussy or whatever, but each one of them fingers is shaped like that for a goddamn reason. And we can get a sense of what the reason is. But clearly this is some sort of a sex toy, and this was in Jeffrey Epstein's pictures. Of course, you have Epstein with Dershowitz. They were besties. Epstein on the set with Woody Allen when Woody Allen is recording some sort of movie. Woody Allen was also close with Jeffrey Epstein. Bizarre. Here is, now this one's crazy because you don't take a picture like this unless you're fucking best friends, bro. This is like some teenage girl, we're about to go out to the club type shit. You got Sloppy Steve and Jeffrey Epstein posing for a mirror selfie together. By the way, anybody who's in, Sloppy Steve's audience, I don't know why you're watching him anymore, bro. I don't know why you even bother. This guy's been lying to you from day one. He was best friends. He was besties with Jeffrey Epstein for a hot minute. He had told Epstein, I'll protect you from Trump. That's what he said. And so he's out there virtue signaling like he's anti-establishment and against the elites and against the billionaires. The fuck he is. He also, by the way, he's a guy who was supposed to go to prison for fraud for stealing money from MAGA voters who gave him money to build the wall, privately build a border wall on the southern border. It was a massive scam from the beginning. But this is who this guy is. And so he's part of that club. Whether or not you want to acknowledge it, he's part of that club. And so I don't know why any of his anti-establishment right-wing voters would listen to him anymore. He's totally full of shit. He's been lying to you the whole time. Have some self-respect. Watch an actual anti-establishment podcast like this one. Like this one. You might not agree with me on some issues, but I'm actually telling you the truth. And I'm actually not bought or owned. I don't even do fucking ads on this show to maintain that independence. So wow, what a picture that is. Holy shit. Bill Gates with, I guess, the pilot of Epstein's plane is what I would guess here. Another one with Trump, and I don't know who that is with him, some blonde who's with him on a private jet. That is almost certainly Epstein's plane that we're talking about here. Or at the very least, it might be Trump's plane, but Epstein is with him on it. But either way, he's on a plane with Jeffrey Epstein. That's what's going on there. And Lord knows who else. Larry Summers, the neoliberal economist who helped ruin the economy, with Woody Allen and somebody else here. And obviously, this is Epstein's plane. The jawbreaker gag, patent pending, terms and conditions, and disclaimer of warranty. Always observe a person who has a gag in their mouth. Never leave that person unattended. The jawbreaker gag will cause a person's mouth to produce more saliva than a regular gag and create a choking hazard if the person is unattended or inverted for any reason. Jesus Christ. So they were doing all sorts of kinky ass shit, obviously. Black belt with instructions for a sex toy. A glossy black cabinet from an unknown location is pictured in front of framed photos. Okay. A Woody Allen and Sloppy Steve hanging out. All the elite Freddos love each other's company. And yeah, I think that's it, right? Yeah, I think we're good. Holy shit. So this is just some of what's come out. This drip, drip, drip is absolutely killing him, man. This drip, drip, drip is killing Trump. I honestly think the two biggest things when it comes to Trump's approval rating collapsing, it's inflation, it's unemployment, and I think it's Epstein. And then a little asterisk as well by demolishing the east wing of the White House illegally and building his billionaire ballroom. That thing too, because the optics of that are horrible as everybody's struggling and you're doing that. But that's part of like the economy, inflation, unemployment. Those are the big things that practically impact people's lives that are making them fucking lose it. But the other thing is Epstein. And look, it makes sense because it's a symbol of this guy was never against the swamp. This guy was never against the deep state. This guy was part of the club. He's always been part of the club. You know, Trump himself was best friends with Epstein, according to Epstein, literally on tape saying that, for a decade. And so the more stuff comes out, the more it busts up this mythology of the anti-elite, anti-establishment MAGA movement. You know, I mean, Trump was on Epstein's plane at least 7 times that we know of. Allegedly, the first time Trump and Melania had sex was on the Lolita Express. That's Epstein's pedophile plane. Epstein knew the inner workings of Trump's first White House and was allegedly offered a fucking job at the White House in his first term. They shared a girlfriend. Epstein also passed off a 20-year-old girl to Trump in 1993 when she was getting a little too old for Epstein's taste. But 20, that works for Trump. Give that girl to Trump. This is crazy. Never mind the creepy-ass love letter that Trump wrote Epstein for his birthday. Never mind that Epstein allegedly learned human trafficking from Trump's modeling agency, which he had, in the 90s? Hanging out with all the well-known pedophiles, like John Casablancas, for example, and Jean-Luc Brunel. This stuff is all on the record. That's what people need to understand. And that's why also Alex Jones is a piece of shit for lying to you guys. For so long, he would talk about, the elites and the pedophile cabal and what they're doing. Now there's all the evidence in the world. Trump is part of that, and now he's got nothing to say about it. Now he refuses to mention that Trump hosted a private event at Mar-a-Lago with teenage models. There was only one other person that was allowed there. It was Jeffrey Epstein. Trump and Epstein and a bunch of teenage girls. Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus Christ. And so I think the drip of all this stuff is just absolutely exposing Trump's dark past in a way that I don't think he can get by. I don't think he can get by it. Now only half of Republicans call themselves MAGA. There was a time when that was like 90%. This is insane. And of course, The chickens are coming home to roost. Just like you guys know this, there was the accusations from Katie Johnson, that lawsuit in 2016, about how in 1994, Epstein and Trump allegedly raped her and she was 13 years old. She dropped that lawsuit, but my guess is she dropped it because there were security concerns and she felt like there was going to be retaliation. But now that story is back in the public consciousness and I see people talking about it. I see people talking about the email where Trump was at Epstein's house in 2011 with the victim for hours. I see people realizing that Epstein knew everything about Mar-a-Lago's finances, including mortgage fraud. I see all of that stuff, whereas in the past, nobody was talking about this stuff. So the drip is killing him. And with every batch, he drops another 2 or 3 points, and I think it's only going to get worse. Oh, I got one more for you. So I gave you all the pictures that we saw come out in this new batch, but we also have this incredible moment where a Democratic congressperson blows the lid off the whole Epstein scandal and says this.
Do you have pictures of people engaged in sexual acts as part of this?
As part of this release, yes, there are pictures of people engaged in sexual acts.
Jesus Christ. I know that they tried to pretend for a long time. The FBI, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, all of these assholes, Pam Bondi, they all went out there and they tried to pretend like, I don't even know, Epstein files? We didn't even have any Epstein files. I don't even know what you're talking about, bro. It turns out not only are there Epstein files, yes, it goes as far as there are videotapes in a vault somewhere, right? The question is, do they have that? We don't know. But my guess is when the FBI raided Epstein's properties, yeah, they should have the tapes. If they don't have the tapes, they're in a vault in Tel Aviv or they're in a vault in Russia, because we know for sure there's intense blackmail on the president, and that could help explain, in part, some of his horrific decisions that he's made. Let Israel do whatever the fuck they want, for example. Sell out Ukraine, for example. But all of those tapes exist. And honestly, it's probably just a matter of time until we get some very disturbing tape to drop. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.